It's Friday, March 31st, 2023, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. A Manhattan grand jury has indicted former President Trump on charges involving a hush money payment in 2016 to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Dave Boyer reports a spokesperson for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said the prosecutor's office contacted Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender to the Manhattan DA's office for arraignment. The arraignment will likely take place next week. The indictment will begin a legal process that will likely require Trump to go to New York to face the charges. The indictment hasn't been made public, and New York judges usually keep charges under seal until a defendant makes an initial appearance in court. Trump called the indictment political persecution. He's the first former president to face criminal charges. Bureau of Prisons officials say January 6 rioter Jacob Chansley has been released from prison 14 months early. Alex Sawyer and Kerry Pickett report the 35-year-old has been moved to a halfway house in Phoenix. Chansley was sentenced to 41 months in prison after pleading guilty in 2021 to civil disorder and violent entry into the Capitol on January 6th. Chansley calls himself a shaman affiliated with the far-right conspiracy group QAnon. His attorney said the early release was part of the Bureau of Prisons protocol and didn't cite additional security video recently released by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy as a reason for his client's transfer. Republican House members are prodding the Biden administration to place sanctions on China for refusing to cooperate in taking back immigrants in the U.S. illegally. Stephen Dinan reports the lawmakers are calling for sanctions to be imposed on countries that refuse to cooperate in repatriating illegal immigrants from their countries. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has long labeled China a recalcitrant country in taking back its deportees. American officials say China is generally bad about taking back nationals entering illegally, so they are caught and released in the U.S. with little chance of being removed. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find the entire lineup of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. South Korea faces a deep divide over work, values, and how to address deeply worrying population trends. Andrew Stammen reports the country's notorious work culture is in the spotlight after President Yoon Suk-yeol's government proposed expanding the maximum allowable working week from 52 hours to 69 hours. The Korea Enterprise Federation and other small business groups have welcomed the plan, but there is vocal opposition, including from labor unions. In the face of backlash, Yoon has backtracked slightly and ordered the country's labor ministry to consider the views of millennials as it weighs how to implement the change. Louisiana's Attorney General was calling for federal employees to be fired and face civil lawsuits if they're found to have pressured technology companies to censor opposing viewpoints. Stephen Dinan reports Jeff Landry and Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmidt claim documents they obtained in a lawsuit show the FBI, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Census Bureau, and others took steps to pressure tech companies to shut down narratives with which they disagreed. Landry said a House bill to ban federal employees from using their positions to engage in censorship is a start, and that federal employees engaged in the act should face termination and loss of future benefits. And finally, Valerie Richardson looks at the consternation over the imagery and language being used for an upcoming protest for transgender rights at the Supreme Court. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.